Today is Friday, December 5th, Friday, December 4th, 2020. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. It's all about the Georgia runoff. We'll continue our conversation about that. Republicans in total disarray, and we prepare for the big John Ossoff, Raphael Warnock rally tomorrow that we'll be live streaming right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Congresswoman Joyce Beatty of Ohio has been elected chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. She joins us to talk about what her priorities are going to be. In Alabama, why are they trying to target churches who are trying to take people to the polls? We'll talk about that story as well. In addition to, Congress could very well have a COVID relief bill, but is it really a bill that helps the people? And comedian Michael Collier joins us to talk about his new holiday film. Lots of other stuff to discuss on Roland Martin Unfiltered. It's time to bring the funk. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
It's Founders Day for Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Today is the 114th Founders Day. And so, of course, it's all about the brothers, all about the bros today. Folks, in Congress, new leadership has been elected. David Scott of Georgia. We're in Georgia right now. He is going to be the new chair of the Agricultural Committee. That is a huge, huge position, being the ranking member. When it comes to financial affairs, foreign relations, Greg Meeks is going to be the new chair as well. And for the Congressional Black Caucus, Joyce Beatty of Ohio has been elected as chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Of course, whenever you have a new session, what happens is, of course, Democrats elect new leadership. Now, when it comes to the top leadership, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, you have, of course, Steny Hoyer, Majority Leader, and you have the whip, Jim Clyburn. Then, of course, you have the head of the Democratic Caucus, is Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. But the committee assignments are critically important. Some folks actually switch. You have, of course, the House Financial Services, Congresswoman Maxine Waters. She is the one who was the top dog on that particular committee as well. And so African Americans, remember, the CBC has the largest group in the Democratic caucus, more than anybody else. And so you get to see their power exhibited when it comes to who chairs committees. Why is that important? Because they have subpoena power. They have the ability to hold those congressional hearings to hold people to task. And so that's why it is important for African Americans to be in those leadership positions. I'm going to bring in my panel right now. Dr. Greg Carr, Chair of the Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. Mustafa Santiago Ali, of course, former advisor there for the EPA. And also we have Sam Fullwood. Sam, of course, is with the Center for Professional and Presidential Studies at American Universities. And, of course, all three are my Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity brothers. So that's the way we do it on December 4th on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And that's why y'all see, now one of my followers, I don't have her name, but she actually made this for me last year. I'll pull up the name in a second. And so she made this for me, this African outfit with A Phi A on it. So I want to go ahead and wear it today. Since she hooked me up with this. Let's go right to our panel. First off, Sam, I want to start with you. How important is it? Let's talk about power. How important is it to have African Americans in these critical leadership positions, chairing committees, wielding the gavel, and exercising that power?
First off, let me say happy Alphaversary to you, my brother, and all of my brothers on this panel, but to you in particular, Roland Martin. Thanks for being here. Thanks for having me here. I think you outlined it pretty well in your introduction. The chair people of the various committees have the ability to set the agenda for what the committee is going to do. That includes the subpoena power. That includes how they manage legislation. That includes whether they will even take up something or not. The committee chairs are vitally important in terms of making things happen or not allowing things to happen.
You're absolutely right there. Mustafa, you worked at the EPA. You understand the power of Congress. Democrats controlling the House. Again, the chair of the committees, they wield significant power. And again, trust me, those who are in federal government, they react differently when you get a letter from the chair of a congressional committee because they control the purse strings.
Exactly, which is super critical to most folks because those dollars actually play out in how policy happens on the ground. I was blessed to spend 2 years on Capitol Hill working for the dean of the CBC and also chairman of the Judiciary Committee, John Conyers, and to watch how he utilized that power in a way to also make sure that our voices and our experiences were a part of the testimony that actually came in. And also making sure that he was always highlighting those African Americans who had expertise so that, it sort of translated in so many different ways. So not only, the influence that the committee chairs have on our federal family, but also even broader than that in making sure that our voices are actually heard and honored in the process.
Greg, historically, what people have to understand when you think back to President Lyndon Baines Johnson, President John F. Kennedy, the power that Congressman Adam Clayton Powell had when it came to driving through legislation. Folks talk about the war on poverty, the Great Society. It was Adam Clayton Powell who played a critical role when you talk about what happened with apartheid. In the 1980s, the CBC played a critical role, but again, members being in leadership positions. And so historically, we understand what happens when you have powerful chairs. Right now, with the House Financial Services Committee, trust me, if you're a bank, you do not want to cross Congresswoman Maxine Waters.
You do not, brother. I mean, happy birthday to all of our fraternity brothers worldwide. And since you mentioned, brother, Adam Clayton Powell, Alpha Phi Alpha, perhaps there's been no more powerful individual congressman in the history of the United States Congress of African descent than Adam Powell. Appropriations Committee. And a lot of people, if you got an Pell Grant to go to college, you need to go back and thank Adam Clayton Powell. When you think about the Great Society, you're absolutely right. Powell did it. I mean, and so coming forward through history, we understand the importance, as we just heard, of these chairships. I mean, it's interesting. Scott in agriculture will be able to drive things in the federal legislature, particularly around food stamps, school lunch, because typically that chairpersonship has gone to someone from a rural area or whatever. But Scott, of course, representing Atlanta, parts of Atlanta. And now we'll see if Marcia Fudge gets to be Secretary of Agriculture. Again, the idea of the Agriculture Department being that cabinet position that is responsible for helping to feed people. Scott is going to drive that agenda. And Greg Meeks, our frat brother again, being here at Foreign Affairs, is interesting, isn't it? Because Meeks doesn't get that position, perhaps, if Elliot Ingalls is still there. And it was young Jamal Bowman that bodied Elliot Ingalls out of New York and who was chair of that committee. And now Greg Meeks moves into that position. Love to see what he's going to do and help drive policy, particularly around Africa. That's going to be key. I hope it's not business as usual for the Democrats when it comes to foreign policy related to Africa and the Caribbean.
And again, we appreciate all CBC members, but it is something important for us when you've got Gregory Meeks chairing the committee, when you've got David Scott, another Alpha, chairing the committee, and then Bobby Scott as well. And Benny Thompson chairs Homeland Security. I'll go ahead and give the captain some love there. All right, folks. Again, let's talk about. We're waiting to hear from her. She'll be connecting with us real soon. Congresswoman Joyce Beatty of Ohio, chair of the CBC. Sam, I found this to be real interesting because there are a lot of other CBC members with more seniority, but Beatty has not been in Congress long, but she has certainly distinguished herself rather quickly.
It's really interesting. The chairperson of the CBC does not necessarily have to have all that tenure. What they have to have is the ability to get something done. And I think that's what has distinguished Representative Bailey. I think that she wouldn't have gotten it if she didn't have the support of the other members. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be there 20 years or 10 terms or for a long tenure. It's a matter of being able to get things done. And that's probably more critical at this particular point than at any other point. I'm interested in hearing her talk about how she can move things in the House when things get stalemated on the other side in the center? What kind of efforts does it take to show leadership when you've got divided government?
The thing here is, and first of all, we actually going to we actually had her booked. We're going to push her to be on the show on Monday. Mustafa, I've worked with Congressman Beatty a whole lot. She was very tough on media companies who came before the committees that she was on, challenging them when it came to diversity with these various companies. She also understands the flow of money and how power connects when it comes to money.
Yes, she's very reminiscent of Shirley Chisholm, one of the first founding members of the CBC, and having sort of a holistic way of looking at a number of different issues, but also understanding where those levers of power are. So when you can make sure that you're properly engaging around media-related issues, you understand the power that's there. And then when you also tie that to the economics and have a good grasp of that, and I'll just call out also that she's very strong also in education and public health, two critical elements, not only just for our communities, but for the country as a whole. So I think she's actually an excellent choice because I see her having the ability to work with so many different people on these very critical sets of issues.
I go back to the point about understanding history, understanding power, Greg. And look, the reality is those of us, all of us here ingrained in politics, understands the nuance, understands the dynamic and how all of these different things work. But for the average person out there, they're like, okay, so what? Somebody is committee chair. So what? Someone is chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. But what we have to realize is that politics is about the nuance of power. And that is, you can decide, nope, I don't want that to actually hit the floor. Look on the Senate side. Here's a guy, Mitch McConnell, elected from a small state, Kentucky, who literally, because he controls the Senate and Democrats control the House, he actually wields more power on public policy in America than Pelosi or even President-elect, because he can say, like he's done, nope, this is not going to come before the floor. And so when you understand that is how you use it. Again, when you look at history, when you look at, as we said, how Adam Clayton Powell used it, when you look at members of Congress who came from Maryland, who came from other places, when it came to MWBE, when it came to business, when you look at the late Congressman Payne, who was a huge advocate of Africa. In fact, his nickname was Mr. Africa. I was talking about Maryland, Perrin Mitchell, the role that he played. We could go down in history and people really don't quite understand what happens, how you use your political power. And so for everybody who's watching us, it's important that African Americans are in these leadership positions so we can get various things, which means those of us who are also advocates have to be aggressive in knowing who to go to when it comes to power, because you might be talking to one person when they ain't the person who really controls the purse strings.
Roland, you really are, man, bringing back a lot of memories for me. When I first came to Howard, I would sit for hours with Alvin Thornton in political science and the late Ralph Gomes in sociology and listen to them talk about how in the early days of the Congressional Black Caucus, that CBC sought out HBCU professors, and in fact, sought out some professors at Howard to help set up a think tank, because they said we're not just representing our district, we're representing Black America and Black people generally, given America's outsized influence in foreign policy. And so when you saw Ron Dellum coming out of the Bay Area, when you saw, as you say, a Perrin Mitchell, who really is an understudied figure for a lot of people, what you see is these individuals went into Congress, as Shirley Chisholm, as we heard Mustafa talk about. You see, they come into Congress representing more than their district. And so when you talk about Adam Clayton Powell, I mean, Adam Clayton Powell makes Mitch McConnell look like a child, because Adam Clayton Powell understood that to wield power, you simply have to use the stick. And sometimes if you can't use the stick, you have to kind of cajole and you have to do what you need to do. In fact, Powell is really a case study for anybody who wants to talk about how to wield political power, particularly when you're a Black person. That's one of the reasons they had to get him out of the paint, They had to get him out of the federal legislature because of the power he wielded. But, when we're thinking now in 2020, Joyce Beatty, and I agree with what Brother Sam said, you've got 57 members of this Congressional Black Caucus, and this is the largest knot of people in the House of Representatives, and they have the potential to sway any legislation on the House side. And then finally, that's going to come. And when you had Representative Beatty on the show a couple of weeks ago, she talked about that. She says, I'm looking forward to working with these young progressives because I was there once. And like Sam said, that capacity to hold the line for folks, we saw it today with Nancy Pelosi, who's been able to hold the line for the Democrats. And now she's saying, well, maybe we'll, take this bill and we'll think about this compromise. And people are saying, well, you could have got almost twice that a couple of last month. But her response is, her basic response was, we had to get Joe Biden elected. That's the kind of ruthlessness we're going to have to see from the federal legislature on the House side. And if they don't get those 2 seats in the on the Senate side, the Democrats, somebody like Joyce Beatty is going to wield an outsized amount of influence when it comes to keeping that block together to push things forward, particularly when folks start to waver and say, well, maybe we'll compromise. Joyce Beatty is, in the CBC's 50th year. It's going to be a challenge for her, but she seems to be more than up to that challenge.
I'm glad you brought that up when it came to that this bill that's now come before Congress. Sam, we're talking about $908 billion. But here's the deal, though. Everybody keeps talking about, bipartisan. They almost had an agreement, but there are issues with this bill. One of the things that Republicans desperately wanted was to grant immunity to companies when it comes to COVID. This is one of the points where a lot of Democrats say they simply cannot waver. Sam, in your estimation, what we're seeing so far, is this a good bill for Black America?
Roland, that's a tough question. It is the best deal we can get at the moment. Sometimes you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the just good. And I think that this is just good. Nancy Pelosi sort of put it this way. She's willing to take this because she thinks she can get more. She's banking on the 2 seats in the Senate under a Biden administration, and she thinks she can get more. She wants to take what she can get now. Is this the perfect bill? Absolutely not. No, it is not. It is far less than what Democrats have been demanding and insisting on to date. Is it as good as what they could have gotten before? Maybe, but that might have, as you said, that may not have been the most prudent political move to make. At this point, when people are hurting, when people need some relief from in the COVID situation, yes, this is about as good as it can get, but it is not the ideal piece of legislation. I want to expound on something else that we were talking about.
Go ahead.
If you will, give me just a second on this. The influence of the CBC, and we've talked about this a good bit, but I want to make a point here. This congressional session that is coming up is going to be probably one of the most powerful for the CBC. And let me argue why that might be. You have a president who has already said that he is dependent on the Black vote. The CBC, as Brother Carr's mentioned and Brother Ali has mentioned, has wielded this sort of national voice for African Americans all across the country. That voice is now going to be refracted through Congresswoman Beatty on behalf of all people, and it will be heard in a different way at the White House than I think any CBC voice has been heard in at least in the last 4 presidential terms. And I think that's really important and something we ought to pay attention to.
The Mustafa, your assessment of this particular bill. Again, I've heard from others who say that it actually hurts poor folks. So your assessment on that, Mustafa.
We're in a very tough situation. Over the last couple of weeks, I've spent a lot of time with doctors and nurses and other folks in the medical field, and literally our infrastructure is collapsing. And the states don't have the resources that are necessary to be able to shore that up and to be able to help folks. So on that side of the equation, we need those dollars to get to those folks who are on the front lines in our medical, professions that are doing this. On the other side, folks are just at the end of their rope when it comes to being able to pay the rent, be able to put food on the table, all the very critical elements that, unfortunately, this set of dollars is not going to represent in a way to actually help people. And then just let me make one last point around this liability stuff. And I just want to remind folks, you remember when you had workers inside of the poultry plants and some of these other meat packing plants that were getting these diseases, and you had these businesses and industries that were forcing them back to work. And you see it with many other frontline workers. So if we allow the liability clause to be able to move forward, then those folks who are put in those dangerous situations won't be able to sue, won't ever be able to, actually recoup many of the things that they lost, some of them in their health, others in relationship to, to the dollars that were necessary. So we need to really pay particular attention to that because that is a very, very difficult thing to accept when you actually work with frontline folks.
Greg, this is what the New York Times says right now. It says the $908 billion compromise is not even a legislative proposal yet. It is a bipartisan framework assembled by a group of senators led by Susan Collins, Republican of Maine, and Joe Manchin III, Democrat of West Virginia. Many of its details are still being negotiated, including how the government ought to distribute more aid to small businesses. And so then, of course, it goes once the bill comes up. So it's going to originate in the Senate. Here's the problem. Ain't no guarantee that it's going to actually pass in the House.
No. And this is where I agree. I agree with Ali, agree with Sam. This bill is trash. But somebody's getting ready to be evicted December 31st. Somebody's unemployment benefits run out the 31st of this month. For those of us who be able to pay our rent, it's one thing to say, oh no, we need to hold the line. It's quite another thing to say, as Sam has said, let's get these folks to stay indoors. Let's get these unemployment benefits extended. And there are other things, maybe $10 billion for the post office, other things, food assistance is very serious. And then January 20th, let's get the hard reset. But there is no guarantee. Mitch McConnell has demonstrated that he picks his whiteness over your life and my life and the life of people who are without hope at this moment. And so, there has to be some momentum. This so-called problem solvers. Look, first of all, those people in Maine showed us what they think about the rest of the country by sending Susan Collins back down here. And in Collins' mansion, if we get these 2 seats, you talk about Democrats getting the 2 seats out of Georgia, that's the future of what's going to happen on the Senate side. Joe Manchin can't be trusted, but because that's where the power is going to be. But it seems to me that they have to go forward if they can. And you're absolutely right. What the progressives on the House side are going to have to do is balance the future aspiration for the short term, because there are people, as we just heard from our brothers, who are suffering. So, if we have to do this at this moment, do it and live to fight another day.
All right, folks, let's talk about Georgia, where we are. Of course, we are here. We're going to be tomorrow live streaming the Raphael Warnock, John Ossoff rally at 1 p.m. Eastern. So, folks, you definitely want to look forward to that. Today, though, that was a virtual rally that took place. It featured President Barack Obama, Nikema Williams, who is going to be replacing the late Congressman John Lewis in Congress, and a number of others. Here is some of that virtual rally.
And it is wonderful to see John and Reverend, 2 candidates who not only know their stuff, not only have specific plans around advancing health, jobs, and justice, but have shown a lifetime commitment to making sure that all people have a seat at the table, who for a lifetime have dedicated their life to service, who have displayed again and again and again that they care about people, including, or maybe especially, the least of these. have the kind of integrity that we want to see in public service. I think I have a couple of jobs here. The first is to send a message from the nation that we sure are proud of Georgia, because the coalition that you described, Stacey, the excitement, commitment, turnout, the insistence on creating coalitions rather than divisions among people of different backgrounds and ethnicities and income brackets and regions. All of that describes a vision of what not just Georgia can be, but what America can be. And you did so under some difficult circumstances, because historically, as we know, it's not as if all the machinery of Georgia government has done everything it can to encourage people to participate in the voting process. And so that kind of movement spirit combined with great tactics and strategy and hard work and a message about how we need a politics that works for ordinary people, not for insiders, not for the high and mighty, but for everybody.
Good afternoon, Georgia, and thanks to everybody for joining us today. I'm honored, of course, to be with Stacey and with John in this fight together. And all of us are deeply honored, as always, to be with President Barack Obama, who inspires us all in so many ways. I want to thank our Congresswoman, Nakima Williams, Congresswoman-elect, and I want to thank Atlanta's great Mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, for taking the time this afternoon to help us to get out to vote. Well, I've been traveling all across the state. I have been making my way into cities and towns. And when I go into these small towns, often they're surprised that I'm there. I'm surprised that they're surprised. They say that they're not accustomed to people running for the Senate or serving, dropping by these little towns, which is strange to me because John and I are running to be the next two senators for the whole state of Georgia. And as I encounter people and their stories, I've been thinking a whole lot lately about my dad. I grew up as one of 12 children in public housing. We were short on money, but long on faith. And we had a deep sense of values and hard work. My dad used to wake me up every morning, 7 days a week, 6 a.m. And he'd say, son, get up, get dressed, put your shoes on, and get ready. And sometimes I didn't understand. It was Saturday morning. I said, get ready for what? He said, I don't know. I'll figure it out a little bit later, but just get ready. And he just wanted me to be ready. And that was a life lesson that I've taken with me all of my journey. And I just want to say to Georgians this afternoon that it's time for all of us to get ready, put our shoes on. The battle is not over. We've got a race in front of us, and we intend to win. And we need all Georgians to recognize this deciding moment, this inflection point in our country. And Georgia's at the center of that inflection point. If you want to protect healthcare coverage for the 1.8 million Georgians with a pre-existing condition, get your shoes on and get ready. If you want pandemic relief for the Georgians who've had to close their doors to the dream business that they started from scratch, put your shoes on and get ready. If you're concerned about our teachers and our frontline workers and their ability to do the work that they're so deeply committed to, it's time for you to put your shoes on and get ready. If you want a U.S. Senate that takes on the challenges our country is facing and will partner with President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris to deliver for Georgia, we need to put our shoes on and get ready to vote. The wind is at our back. The momentum is with us. The other side knows it. They're running scared, and they should be. But this is our moment. We're delighted that Georgia's on everybody's mind. And we need all Georgians to stand up in this defining moment in American history and win the future for all of our children. Again, thank you all for joining us, and I look forward to the conversation.
My mother was about 23 years old when she came to this country alone as an immigrant, because for her, America represented hope. She believed we were on a journey, making progress to fully realize our founding ideals, that we were equal in God's eyes, that opportunity and rights were given equally to all of us. That's the vision of this country that drew my mother here as a young woman. She became an activist and marched for the Equal Rights Amendment. She became a businesswoman. She became a citizen because she recognized that the ballot box is where we push this country forward. And what happened in these last 4 years, as our country's been ripped apart by fear and division, broke my mother's heart. And what's happened in this last year, as the catastrophic failure of our leaders has compounded the death toll and the economic damage from this pandemic, has broken so many hearts. But if you're wondering what you've been feeling in your heart these last 4 weeks, maybe an unfamiliar feeling that you haven't felt in a while, that is called hope. And it reminds us of what we felt 12 years ago when Barack Obama ran for president at a time of war and recession and financial crisis, and put hope in our hearts. And Georgia right now represents the hope of the nation, because what's happening in Georgia is such a beautiful clarification of where the American South is and where our state is. You got the young Jewish journalist son of an immigrant running alongside a Black preacher who holds Dr. King's pulpit at Ebenezer Baptist Church, leading a grassroots movement for health, jobs, and justice in the midst of a crisis. And we're running against like the Bonnie and Clyde of political corruption in America, who represent politicians who put themselves over the people. We have the chance in Georgia to stand up and make a difference, to define a future where all of us have equal justice under the law, where all of us can get the health care that we need, to leave future generations a clean and beautiful planet, to make sure everyone has access to dignified work that pays a living wage, to empower the health experts to get us out of this crisis and get economic relief to people who need it. That's what's on the line. I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this moment. Let's make history and win these races and write the next chapter in American history together. Thank you so much, Stacey, Reverend, and Mr. President.
Greg Carr, if you want to understand how major this is, check this out. Go to my iPad. Fair Fight, that is the group Stacey Abrams created. They 357,000 new donors in 39 days. They raised nearly $40 million as a result. This is what the press release says. In total, Fair Fight raised $34.5 million. They've got $22.1 million cash on hand. Why is this important? Because money went from them, went to groups like Asian American Advocacy Fund, Black Voters Matter Fund, Coalition for the People's Agenda, Fair Count, Georgia Association of Latino Elected Officials, and on and on and on, Georgia NAACP and others to drive grassroots. And so that is critical because the campaigns are spending money. You have a group like Fair Fight. The whole goal, again, we have just 72 hours left, and that is for folks to register by Monday. Monday is the deadline to register. Abrams previously also said some 900,000 people have requested absentee ballots. And so you're seeing the kind of energy that is happening here on the ground in Georgia, Greg, that could very well be the tipping point to put Ossoff and Warnock over the top in defeating incumbent Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler.
Absolutely. And I'm going to take this opportunity to encourage everyone watching to support Roland Martin Unfiltered, because there's a reason you have moved operations to the state of Georgia. This is the only daily news show we have. And as a result, people are getting more information in the 2 hours that you're on every day than from all the network news entertainment media combined. Resources matter. And in this particular instance, of course, it's staggering to see the amount of money that's being poured into Georgia. At the same time, we have to understand that, as you've said it over and over again, as all your guests these last few weeks, ground game is going to be everything. John Ossoff sounds like a white Obama. And that's an improvement on Barack Obama, if for no other reason than he's a white man. And we look at, and first of all, ignore the poll, because they're saying that, that Warnock is up and Ossoff is in a heat. No. Please understand the white lie, the little white lie effect. We're going to retire the Bradley effect. The fact that white people lie to post. Even with the lie effect, black people, the lead Warnock has is 83%. 83% lead according to this poll that just came out. Ossoff has an 87-point lead. What does that mean? At least how am I reading that? I'm reading it in part as a kind of sense that whiteness gives you a little bit of an advantage. But now this thing is going to be won by who knocks on the most doors, who turns the most voters out. If you're 18 years old and if you turn 18 before election day, you can vote. So make sure you sign up and register in Georgia. And we're going to see whether or not that new South, which is coming, is going to come in January 2021 or in 2022 or in 2024, but it's coming. This is white supremacy's last stand in Georgia, electoral white supremacy anyway. And they're going to fight like hell, although it seems like Donald Trump will come down there and help them ruin it in the next couple of days, because they are a mess, as you say.
The reality is, Mustafa, Donald Trump is going to be here tomorrow. He'll be campaigning on behalf of Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue in Valdosta. But here's the whole deal. You can expect that he's probably going to have his all of his grievances, whining, complaining as he always is. And so some Republicans are already saying, please, oh, please, I hope he doesn't do that. Hope he actually mentions Loeffler and Perdue. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens here if that happens in terms of what happens there. Not only that, they still have their shenanigans up. If y'all really want a good laugh, Mustafa, I think you're going to get a kick out of this one. Let me pull this up because it just came down. First of all, Donald Trump and his legal team, they have been getting crushed in the courts all day long, losing in state after state after state after state. And so I saw this press release, and give me a second. I'm trying to pull it up. This is so laughable. I mean, seriously, I think on this Friday, if people need a very good laugh, I think we have one for you. What these idiots have actually done, it's a shame how stupid they are, and it's unfortunate that we have to deal with their stupidity and their nonsense. But let me show y'all this here. The Trump, go ahead and switch to the iPad. The Trump campaign, y'all, is filing a lawsuit in Georgia asking them to throw out the entire election. Mustafa, really? That's their latest. They've been getting embarrassed everywhere. They've been embarrassed everywhere, all over the country. Losing today in Michigan, losing today in Minnesota, losing in state after state after state. I don't mind them losing more, but really, you actually think like they're literally asking them to throw out the entire election and do a do-over. A do-over. Really? Yeah.
I mean, it's not even hard to respond to that kind of foolishness. I don't even know where he finds his legal team, man. I'm like, there are first-year law students who know a little bit more about how this stuff runs than these folks do. It's nonsensical, the things they continue to do. And Trump is like this journeyman boxer who's just been punched too many times in the head, and one person comes up to him and says, you know what, you can still be champ. And he believes it, and he keeps going. So, I hope that he does go on down to Georgia, and I hope that he does not I hope he doesn't use the talking points that they've given him. I hope he just says what he truly believes, because that will seal, the race for folks, Brother Warnock and Ossoff, And also, let me just call out also Brother Daniel Blackman, who's running for the Public Service Commission, who will be the first African American ever elected to that position if he wins as well. So I hope Trump goes. I hope Trump doesn't, say anything positive, and folks take that to actually understand that he doesn't care about their party. He never did. Doesn't care about the community, and doesn't care about our country.
If I can,
Sam, I'm about to go to you, but I got to read this here. This literally came from the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and conservative Justice Brian Haydorn. I just want to read this because it's even Republicans are saying how stupid these folks are. This is what he wrote in his where they rejected the latest lawsuit. Nonetheless, I feel compelled to share a further observation. Something far more fundamental than the winner of Wisconsin's electoral votes is implicated in this case. At stake, in some measure, is faith in our system of free and fair elections, a feature central to the enduring strength of our constitutional republic. It can be easy to blithely move on to the next case with a petition so obviously lacking, but this is sobering. The relief being sought by the petitioners is the most dramatic invocation of judicial power I have ever seen. Judicial acquiescence to such entreaties built on so flimsy a foundation would do indelible damage to every future election. Once the door is open to judicial invalidation of presidential election results, it will be awfully hard to close that door again. This is a dangerous path we are being asked to tread. The loss of public trust in our constitutional order resulting from the exercise of this kind of judicial power would be incalculable. I do not mean to suggest this court should look the other way no matter what, but if there is a sufficient basis to invalidate an election, it must be established with evidence and arguments commensurate with the scale of the claims and the relief sought. These petitioners have come nowhere close. While the rough and tumble world of electoral politics may be the prism through which many view this litigation, it cannot be so for us. In these hallowed halls, the law must rule. Sam Forward.
Roland, I'm going to have to push back on the thesis of your argument about how laughable and silly and foolish they are. I think this is far more serious than it is something that's comical at all. Trump doesn't expect to invalidate the election. He doesn't expect to win. What he wants to do is to build an army of ignorant believers, and he is succeeding at that. There are people out there. I'm amazed that there were 75 million Americans who thought this guy should be president. Trump keeps talking about getting 75 million votes. That's what he's counting on. And so it is to his advantage to stoke the flames of nullification of an election to keep his supporters charged up. He has raised, $130 million since the election?
No. 170 million there, and they're on their way to 200.
Okay, almost $200 million. He'll have $200 million in the next week. $200 million. And the vast bulk of that money is not going to overturning the election. It's going into some kind of pact that he has created in order to stoke, to sort of be a shadow government against the Biden administration. That's not funny. That is deathly serious and frightening.
No. Let me be real clear. What I am calling laughable are the legal attempts and also the arguments that they are making. Oh, there is no doubt we know exactly what they're trying to do. We clearly know that what they are trying to do is sow seeds of discontent. And then, but see, that's what he has done. Here's the deal. This ain't new.
It doesn't matter.
The reality is this here. When he started, no. Here's what I mean. When he started with this whole deal about fake news, it was designed to get his rabid followers to say, we believe nothing any of them say. So what he has done is, for the last 4 years, really, let's go back further, for the last 6 years, what he has done is create a group of people who have no common sense, no knowledge, who are zombies following him. And the problem here, the greater issue, is that the Republican Party, Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, and on and on and on, they have allowed this thug to do these things, and because of their naked power grab, have said nothing. And so their lack of institutional control, their lack of morals and values and principles have allowed what it should be crazy, wacky, to become actually the norm.
I totally agree with that. And I think that their arguments in court, yeah, they are ridiculous, but they're designed in a ridiculousness like a fox to appeal to those low information supporters that they have. And it's all of this stuff is going to get thrown out in the courts, but his supporters will say, see, that's deep state courts. And there is a response that they have to everything that is done that is contrary to any democratic notion that we have held heretofore. And I think that that's very, very alarming. I think that's what people really need to keep their eye on.
Yeah. But Greg, we talk about this all the time, and what this is absolutely about trying to preserve as long as they can whiteness, trying to control the levers of power. That's why Mitch McConnell did what he did when it came to those federal judges. That's why many of us, we make the argument that a Joe Biden, for all of his talk about being able to work with Republicans, and then after Trump, they're going to return to the way they used to. No, they have made it perfectly clear. This is how they are going to operate in the future. And the fact that Mitch McConnell and most top Republicans still won't even say President-elect Joe Biden is all you need to know about who they are.
That's right. That's right, Roland. Donald Trump will come to Georgia tomorrow, and he will be Donald Trump, as Mustafa said. As you said, he's going to whine. He may mention Loeffler. He may not mention Loeffler. And to Sam's point, it won't matter. The tricky calculus that they have today, and maybe a little slippage with Perdue over the last 24 hours. Did he or did he not acknowledge Biden? This kind of thing. The challenge that both Perdue and Loeffler have now is, how do you stir up those white nationalists to come to the poll when some of those ignorant folks actually believe Trump? That's their problem now. Can they get drug across the finish line? That's why Ossoff and Warnock and that get out the vote operation have to break the back of those white nationalists by turning out the people to vote. So that's one thing. But to Sam's point, and to the point you're making as well, when we think about this, we understand that Donald Trump is not the beginning of Republican gaslighting. Mitch McConnell, that feckless white nationalist, has been gaslighting the entire country for years. He stole a Supreme Court seat in broad daylight. The speeches that Mitch McConnell has been delivering over the last several years sound just like Donald Trump without the sweat and all the permutation. He simply calls daytime night and nighttime day from the floor of the United States Senate. Donald Trump is not a problem for them in the long run, because the Sam's point, if it is not the way they view the world, they will simply ignore. They will simply ignore. Donald Trump didn't introduce anything in American politics. He simply accelerated the inevitable. They are going to fight for whiteness until their death. Many of them are ignorant. Others of them are not. They understand that it doesn't matter, that the law is a fiction, except as interpreted by the courts and enforceable by the rest of the political apparatus once the courts have decided. And what they have demonstrated finally is that if they have the power, a Kyle Rittenhouse can get bail, and a Khalid Browder cannot. A Kyle Rittenhouse can get bail, and the sister who tried to vote and didn't know, no, she going to jail. In other words, this has nothing to do with truth or morals. This has everything to do with power, and they're going to choose their whiteness over your life and mine, brother. And they're going to do it until we stop them. That's the only thing going. There's no appealing to them, Democrat. You got to break their back.
And that, Mustafa, breaking their backs is because we have to put this in perspective, Mustafa. Not the next 2 years, not the next 4 years, but what we are seeing is that the decisions being made today are going to have a clear and direct impact on our children's children. And folk better be thinking that far down the line when you see the actions happening today. Go ahead.
Well, Brother John Lewis shared with us the vote is precious, the most powerful nonviolent tool we have in our democracy. And if we begin to understand the power that exists inside of that, and we also begin to understand the building of infrastructure for the long term. So that's why I'm excited when we see, this amount of resources finally coming into Georgia. And I hope folks will also build it out in other parts of the South, really begin to invest. Because brothers and sisters were there doing all this hard work, Stacy and Latasha and Brenda and all these other folks, for years getting this infrastructure in place. So for this particular transformational moment, if folks actually get out and vote and get those 50 senators, on the Senate side, and then understand that that's just the first step, that in 2022 and 2024 and 2028, that we got to continue to build until you have enough power that you can actually hopefully right this ship that is America.
Folks, got to go to a break. We come back. Let's talk new unemployment numbers. What are the numbers looking like for African Americans? Also, the next hour, we'll talk with Michael Collier about his new holiday movie. Lots more to talk about on Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting live from Atlanta, Georgia, where we are covering the Georgia runoff race with Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff. We'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered in a moment.
You cannot fulfill your life if you're not willing to engage in the tactics and strategies that makes your own life grow and helps you to build the community in which you want to live. Voting is a singular method for a people locally and regionally to govern themselves.
Love your neighbor as yourself. It's a value we all try to live by, but in Washington, it's been forgotten. It's clear our politics are broken, overcome by a selfishness that rewards money and power, leaving far too many of us out of the conversation. I'm Raphael Warnock, and I see you. I see too many communities left behind, too many hardworking people ignored. I'm running for Senate to be your voice. That's why I approve this message.
We're at Mom's Kitchen in Preston, Georgia. It's a family business. I enjoy making people happy, giving them a good meal. But since COVID, we had to close our main dining room. We lost all of that business, and we used to do a lot of caterings. We can't do any of that anymore. David Perdue knew what was about to happen. He was getting classified briefings about the pandemic. But instead of him being concerned about us, he off selling stock. We had no idea we'd have to close our businesses off. We'd lose caterings, and so many people died. And then when we needed help the most, he fought against the stimulus checks and to cut unemployment insurance. Perdue needs to come out and Ossoff in. Early voting starts December 14th. You got to make a plan to vote.
I'm John Ossoff, and I approve this message.
One senator in particular irks me. A Senator Kelly Loeffler, not elected, but appointed just a couple months ago. Calls
across the political spectrum for the resignation of Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler of Georgia.
Loeffler, her husband's the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange.
I know that sounds like a joke about rich people in an Adam Sandler movie. That's a real thing. He owns the stock exchange. So they're two regular down-home folks.
One of the first things they did after they found out just how bad the coronavirus would be during closed-door Senate briefings was sell a huge amount of stock.
You sold over $1 million in stocks in your own personal portfolio before the market went down.
They were making a bunch of moves in the stock market to make sure their portfolios were protected instead of making sure you were protected.
New congressional disclosures show that Loeffler sold far more stock than we initially knew.
$18.7 million in stock trades. While there are those who would dismiss it and say, well, she's worth so much more, I've never met a wealthy person who didn't want more money.
Not only did she sell stuff, but then she bought stuff, and one of the items she bought was to help people who have to work at home, software.
There's a reason Kelly Loeffler's spending $25 plus or $30 million in this, because she don't want people to know about her past.
So she owns part of Atlanta's WNBA team, and there are calls for her to give up that ownership now.
Truth is, with Kelly Loeffler, her own ambitions and her own elite friends come first, and the president, the rest of us come second.
Folks, this woman is knee-deep in the swamp, and she just got there.
We should have leaders who actually respect the people.
If Loeffler knew about these trades, she should leave office.
The voters of Georgia had the opportunity to ballot box you out.
Hey, I'm Amber Stevens-West.
Yo, what up, y'all? This is Jay Ellis, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, then. I want to go ahead and I'll go ahead and play that for you, Greg, Mustafa, and Sam. My man Will Packer posted that on his Instagram page, and so I figured we just had to go ahead and do that. And so on today, Founders Day of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the first collegiate Black Greek letter organization, is really Alpha and the rest of them. As I always say, who's your daddy? All right, let's talk about economics. Jobless report came out today, and we're always covering these things, of course, on this show, giving you a breakdown, because what happens when you watch these other networks, they talk about the unemployment numbers, but they never really talk about us Black people, and so we want to do that. Benga Arjalora, he is a senior economist for the Center for American Progress. He joins us right now. Doc, what's going on?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me.
All right, got new numbers. What does it say for Black folks?
So it's really sad. They're the only group that still have double-digit unemployment rates. And we're talking about 9 months into the pandemic, 10.3%, while it's 6.7% for national, down to about 6% for white people.
So Latinos are they're now in single digits, Asian Americans single digits, African Americans the only racial group that's in double digits.
Right. So for Latinos, it's 8.4%. For Asians, 6.7%. And again, African Americans, 10.3%. For Black men, it's 11.2%.
What about Black women, and what about Black youth?
So for Black women, it's 9%, and Black youth is about 17%. So again, 9% is still really high. That's what it was for white people back in the summer.
In terms of growth areas, or in terms of where jobs were actually produced, was it a matter of jobs being returned that we lost during the pandemic? Where was the job creation?
It was actually very little job creation. Only about 245,000 total jobs were created. And so some of that was in construction, as we've seen a lot of building going on. But one of the things is just that it's just all across the board, jobs are continued to be lost, and that we're not getting that recovery And a lot of it's because there's just no fiscal policy that we to see of.
But I thought Trump was doing so great with the blacks.
No, he's not. And it's just, you know, you mentioned earlier that being laughable. This is laughable. I mean, African Americans have been hammered, hit hard, and this has been going on throughout the whole pandemic. And the worst part is that the federal government can do something about it. And even the House has been trying to pass a lot of bills, and the Senate has done nothing. They just, you know, Mitch McConnell talked about it before as the Senate is the graveyard for House bills, but we're talking about a pandemic. We're talking about people losing food, rent, and struggling. And the actual bills that were passed in March that actually helped this economy out are all going to expire at the end of this month.
I'm going to pull up something here, and Bill Spriggs, I'm going to put this on my iPad in just a second. Bill Spriggs tweeted this out, and it's one of those things that also I think it puts into perspective for a lot of people who may not quite understand these things. And so just so I'm going to go to it in a second. And it's stunning when you think about it. So you've already laid out in terms of exactly what those numbers look like for African Americans. Go to my iPad, please. This is stunning here. This is what he said. The black unemployment rate in November was 10.3%, still above the national unemployment rate for high school dropouts. That means that overall, the black unemployment rate in America is higher than it is for high school dropouts.
Yep. Bill is correct. And then one of the things that he's talked about, and I've talked about too and written about, is that our labor market is designed that way. It's designed to create these labor market disparities that African Americans are worse off. And this pandemic, throughout this 9 months, we've seen this play out automatically. And that's why we really have to have a lot of fiscal policy. We have to pass a lot of stuff to help people out, and not just white people, but help everyone out.
Again, not good as well, but it's good for us to have the information and know what our agenda should be moving forward. Benga Ajalori, we shall appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.
Sam Fullwood, I want to go to you. I mean, that last point there that Benga talked about and that Bill Spriggs talked about, the fact that the high school dropout unemployment rate is lower than the overall black unemployment rate.
That's not news. I mean, that has been a fact of economic history for quite a while. And that's the disarming thing about it. That's the alarming thing about it, is that it's not really news. It is old news that just keeps coming back around, and it really is gut-wrenching to know that progress is not being made in the way that it ought to be made on those unemployment figures. There is a consistent
It is not right.
A consistent difference
over
time that the even in good times, the black unemployment rate lags almost by 2 to 1 to what it is for whites. And it seems that no matter what and how often you say it, it doesn't seem to crack the code of how we deal with our economics in our nation.
The reason, Mustafa, it is not news, but the reason I wanted to highlight that is because we have to be armed with the proper talking points and information when we're going up against and dealing with policymakers. And I think we have to, that's one of the things that we have to keep driving home, numbers like that, because when people say, oh, you know, it's this, that, and why are you complaining? No. When you put in that perspective to say, wait a minute, that means high school dropouts have a better chance of getting a job than the average black person? Come on, Doc.
Yeah, I mean, it's so powerful, you know, because you can see it and you can feel it. And then you have to ask the question, what is it that we need to do about it? Well, folks voted. Hopefully we will have an administration that gets focused on policy that actually is going to make change inside the communities who have been unseen and unheard and who have been disinvested in. And we need to anchor this in the reality that even before COVID-19, the black-white wealth gap under the Trump administration, everybody go out and Google it, do your research, was as large as in 1968. So if you are in what was supposed to be, the healthiest, most vibrant economic set of actions, the way that they frame it out, and that there still had this huge gap between black wealth and white wealth, then that means that there's a new set of policies that are going to be necessary to address the disparities that exist. And folks don't want to do that hard work. They think just because a few black folks got a job and were able to work, yes, that's important, but that doesn't get at building wealth inside of communities. That takes policy that is laser focused and understands these historical sets of disparities that have been built and causing these dynamics to happen.
Greg, we talk about that particular point, but also the stat that is critically important. That is that a white high school graduate makes more than a black college graduate. Again, you got to put these things in perspective, and I think that's where we challenge people. And when we have individuals, groups who are choosing to go to the White House or go to Congress or go to state capitals, county commissioner court and city halls, or to go into corporate America, we have to be able to articulate that. So when people say, well, you're sitting here, you bring these things up, I don't really think that's big of a deal. When we say, wait a minute, a white high school graduate on average can make more money than a black college graduate, but I thought y'all keep telling us it's all about the college degree. Clearly it's not.
No, this is just white nationalism. As Sam said, it's been since the beginning. My students are often shocked, the undergraduates, when we look up statistics. A study was done 20 years ago almost now. And someone with a quote unquote black sounding name who is filling an application has the same chance of getting an entry level job as a white person with a white man with a year and a half served time prison record. I mean, whiteness is there. But the thing that strikes me is the economy is doing just fine. Roland, as you said, commercial news entertainment media is reporting about the stock market. So the numbers that pop out to me, and those commercials you ran are very important. First of all, parenthetically, the sister who said we need Purdue out and Ossoff in, that's the kind of tone and temperament you need to take. I mean, with all due respect, President Obama, no joking. Just look into the camera and be serious. But that everybody hates Kelly piece, that too, very effective. But here's the number that strikes me. 1 trillion. What is 1 trillion? $1 trillion is how much 650 billionaires in this country have made since March. A 34% increase in those 650 billion, of which 47 are new billionaires. Now, Amazon is hiring, so it isn't just about jobs. It's about living wage. Jeff Bezos, you know how much money he was worth at the beginning of this? About $69.4 billion. Do you know how much he's worth now? 182.4. Elon Musk at Tesla started this pandemic at 24.6 billion. He is now at 126.2 billion. There are 7 million people facing eviction by the end of this year. And the voters of Maine, the white supremacist voters of Maine, like the rest of the white people who haven't voted for a Democratic president since Lyndon Johnson, put Susan Collins back in the Senate, and she's going to protect the interest of these billionaires. You want to understand why voting is important and why these next few weeks in Georgia are important? These people are in office to protect the billionaires. And the hillbillies don't have enough sense to realize that they have already been discarded. Now, if we're going to stand in harm's way after that, we just need to run the numbers. The economy's doing just fine, brother, because we are roadkill. And that's what the Senate is there for, to ensure that we are.
And the reason I talk about those numbers and why they matter is because folk don't get it. They don't understand. They don't understand the depth of these things. I was looking at a story earlier today, and I didn't want to waste any time with it because I don't think she has really any understanding of the depths of race in this country. But Megyn Kelly, she did an interview with Carlos Watson on his show, and she talked about how, so many white Americans like her were sympathetic after the death of George Floyd, but that all changed when the riots took place. And, it was we've got to have law and order. And I said, white folks are real quick and easy to flip to the law and order deal because, frankly, they don't really like protest. They don't like agitation. And I tweeted, I said, Megyn Kelly has no idea what the hell she's talking about. And then she did say that in order for these changes to be made, it's going to require white folks to be involved in it, which is true. The reality is this: in the last presidential election, 69-70% of the total electorate was white. The numbers are the numbers. Okay, America has been a white nation. It has been a white nation. It's been defined by whiteness. It's been defined by white privilege. It's been defined by white supremacy, and that has been the reality. Here we are. I mean, in this moment in time in 2020, today, December 4th, 2020, and we're looking at right now, really this nation moving towards, not becoming, but moving towards becoming a true multicultural America. But that number is going to have to go down further. By 2043, America, whites will make up 47% of this country. You have Latinos, you have African Americans, but even when it comes to Latinos, are they going to call themselves white Hispanic, or are they going to say they're non-white Hispanic? All those things matter, but we must always pushing this data in the face of folks who say, what's wrong with you? Everything is good. Last point here, and Sam, Mustafa, and Greg, y'all can jump in, is this here. Brett Pulley, Brett Pulley's book on Bob Johnson. And in that particular book, and I'm going to try to find the actual page, because a frat brother, Todd Brown, sent it to me, and we talk about this all the time. And people don't quite understand money and the black tax. And that is this here, and I'm looking for this photo. Folks, this is going to blow folks out their way. In Brett's book on Bob Johnson in BET called The $1 Billion Bet, the unauthorized biography of BET, what he lays out in that particular book is that when BET was being sold to Viacom, Mel Karmazin, who was the CEO of Viacom, and then you have Sumner Redstone, they talked about what could happen when they took control of BET. And what they said is that BET, which was in 70 million or so homes, they were receiving $1,500. Everybody who's out there listening, I need y'all to understand what I'm saying. They were receiving $1,500 for a 30-second ad on BET. MTV was receiving $8,000 for an equivalent ad on MTV. That means that corporate American advertisers were devaluing black people $6,500 less on BET, which means, Sam Fullwood, that we talk about BET being sold for $3.3 billion. The reality is that if BET had gotten its fair share for the black consumer, BET should have been sold for at least 3 times that amount as opposed to what they were sold. So when white America is talking about, but oh my goodness, you look at Bob Johnson and Sheila Johnson, and you got Robert Smith, our frat brother. When you look at Oprah and Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan, what they don't want to go to is what Greg just talked about. Oh yeah, Robert Smith is the wealthiest African American in the country, anywhere from 5 to 7 billion. Oprah's 2.5 to 3 billion, but on the billionaire list, Robert is the top, maybe at 7. Jeff Bezos, you just said, is 180. Elon Musk and others, because they're getting full value for their whiteness.
You laid it out. I mean, I don't know how to elaborate on that any more than what you said. I think that people understand that whiteness is profitable for the people who are in it. The examples that you cite are the exceptions that help affirm white superiority. That when you can point to a Bob Johnson, it then makes a lot of those other people feel that they are absolved of the ill-gotten gains that they have been able to get through hook or crook or however means that they may. And I think a lot of people are deceived because the whole notion of a black face in high places doesn't absolve the culpability of just how whole generations of African American people have been ripped off. That is a fact. That is a reality, and it's important to remind people of that. I think you're absolutely right about that.
Again, Mustafa, why is this important? It is important because when we are seated at the table of power, we must be armed with that. So when someone says, well, we have one, we have two, no, I want 5 and 10. Oh, well, we'll spend. Look, I said to the Biden campaign when they were talking about they made the largest investment in black media in a presidential campaign at $6 million. I said, I'm sorry, that is woefully inadequate. And that is an indication also of the previous campaigns for their unwillingness to spend on black media. I said the exact same thing to others, and that is, so the challenge that we must be willing, and this, Mustafa, is the thing that I think is the most important. We must be willing to sit across the table from people and operate from, as I always, people, y'all hear me say this all the time, when we talk about how do you deal with power? How do you confront power? How do you make demands of power? How do you challenge folk where they are? How do you push them and not simply accept anything? I'm going to go to my iPad here, and this to me explains it all. This is from the scene from Malcolm X, and this is when they went to the police station, check on Brother Johnson. And Brother Johnson had been injured. Brother Johnson had been beaten. And then Malcolm X says, get an ambulance. And then the ambulance comes to pick up Brother Johnson. And then, of course, it takes him off. Now, this is the part where the police officer, the white cop, says this to Denzel, who's playing Malcolm X. And what Malcolm X says in this 6-second clip should be the absolute mindset of every black person, whether you are in academia, whether you are in politics, whether you are in government, any place in this country, this should be your mantra.
All right, break it up. You got what you wanted.
No, I'm not satisfied.
I'm not satisfied.
Agree 1,000%. We just got to understand collective power. We got to understand how we can leverage our own worth and make sure that our worth continues to increase. And some of it starts with us seeing it in ourselves. The other part of it, when you were laying out, I was thinking of chapters in a book that should be sitting in every African-American household across the country. That when you're a young child coming up and all the way until you are an elder, you are continually revisiting that and understanding what real power looks like and how actually I'm always down with the collective, because it's not only about how we utilize our individual dollars, but it's also how we utilize that collective power to hold people accountable and to make sure we got real leverage in these positions. And that's why on today's show, when we talked about the CBC and making sure that it is connected through those voices and those sets of actions with our monetary policy and making sure that we show up in that. And we talked a little bit about Adam Clayton Powell also and how he understood where that power lied and how he leveraged that for the betterment of our communities. We have to get back to that. Our folks got to just realize that we have power, but it means that we have to come together. We have to educate ourselves. And then we've got to be willing to stand up and not just accept anything, because we have way too many folks in our community who will deal with the bare minimums and think that's okay.
I'm not satisfied, Greg.
Oh, no question. You know, Roland, it's very important for us. This is why we have to study our history. You know, Malcolm was able to do that because he had an organization, the Nation of Islam, that wasn't dependent on white people for anything. A string of businesses, farmland in the South. So when he said, I'm not satisfied, he's backed up by our organization. Right there in New York, Malcolm was brought into a coalition to protest to get union workers more money and to get better wages in New York by a sister named Anna Hedgeman. Anna Arnold Hedgeman was the sister who led in the Fair Employment Practice Committee work at the behest of A. Philip Randolph. It was Anna Hedgeman that went to Martin Luther King and said, look, man, we hear you going to have a march. Mr. Randolph talking about having a march. So you bring in the justice stuff because we know you want to get the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We'll bring in the jobs and economic stuff. And that's why the March on Washington 63 was about jobs and justice. What Hedgeman understood, what Randolph understood, is that you have to, as Mustafa said, have a united front. We don't have to all be ideologically the same, but we have to move forward. Finally, you know, Jared Butler's written a book called The Myth of Black Buying Power. And certainly there is something very true to that when you start talking about the question of our collective wealth. However, the basis of wealth is labor. When you organize, you're then able to do what Jared prescribes, what Anna Hedgeman and them understood, which is make demands of policy. That's why when Sam's talking about the CBC, we're talking about the CBC, those are the purse strings. We all pay taxes. Our leverage politically is to get the revenue that we are owed and use that through infrastructure to level some of this playing field. Mark Zuckerman started this pandemic at $54.7 billion. That's what he was worth. It was worth $12 billion more than he was. Now, right now, Buffett's went up to $88.3 billion and Zuckerberg's at 101.7. Why? People using Facebook. People using Amazon. You know who BE by now? Viacom. What else is Viacom on? MTV. Why were they charging so much more for ad? Because black labor, Michael Jackson, Prince, everybody, had made the MTV brand valuable. Now, guess what else Viacom on? Comedy Central. They selling Dave Chappelle, and Dave Chappelle said, I look at my great-grandfather, and he'd be like, damn, you're more of a slave than I was. You've been sold more times than I was. Meaning what? When we don't organize, our labor will be used to build white wealth. And so, yeah, they could buy BET, and now they flip it, and I bet you them rates are a lot higher now that bought the competition because they got black labor now working for them every which way but loose.
But of course, they have that. All right, folks, we talk about political power. We've been discussing that all day. That is also the case in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where tomorrow there's going to be an actual election. That's right. It's going to be an election. We're not just focused here in Atlanta, Georgia. My next guest, of course, she's the mayor of Baton Rouge, and so it's always great to have her back on the show. And so let's go. Mayor, how you doing? You there?
Yes, I'm here, Roland. I'm doing great. Getting ready for Victory 2020 tomorrow.
First of all, Lynn Whitfield was here yesterday for John Ossoff. She told me, she sends her regards. She said, the mayor knows I'm down here in Atlanta, but if she needs my help, I'll be there. Talk about this runoff, Sharon Weston Broom, that you're having, the runoff that you're having tomorrow against your challenger.
Well, of course, my challenger is a Republican who received 20% of the vote. I received 48% as the incumbent in a race of 6 other candidates. And so I have been running a campaign and running an administration on equity and inclusion. I was so engaged in the conversation that you all just had because I recognize that if you're going to have a city of peace, prosperity, and progress, you cannot have disinvested communities and think everything is fine. You have to get your D grade communities up to an A grade. You can't have one part of your community at an A, another at a D. And so this has been one of the themes and pillars of my administration. While many have embraced it, there have been some in the old regiment who think I'm doing a little bit too much for people who look like you and me.
Obviously, you fell 4,000 votes short. That's going to be important to get over the top. What for you, if you are reelected, what is going to be the most important thing for you moving forward to move Baton Rouge forward?
Well, first of all, we have the largest infrastructure project in the history of Baton Rouge, almost $1 billion. And I want to make sure that DBEs, African Americans, women, also our vets have an opportunity to access those dollars. And so we've already started some proactive steps to open our business, open up Baton Rouge for business. So that remains a top priority. Continuing in our efforts towards police reform, we've made some substantial steps in terms of closing the gap between our citizens and our police department, and that continues as we move 4 years forward. And of course, as we navigate this pandemic, making sure we sustain and empower our small businesses especially.
All right, then. Well, Mayor, we certainly appreciate it. Good luck in the runoff tomorrow. And when COVID is over, I can't wait to be able to get back out on the road and come to Baton Rouge, enjoy the food there, and the folks at Southern University as well.
Absolutely. We look forward to having you once we get through this, and we look forward to everyone going out to vote tomorrow.
All right, then, Mayor, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
An update on a story from neighboring Texas. Crystal Mason, a black woman who was sent to jail in Texas for casting a provisional ballot, where she was ineligible to vote. She's appealing to overturn her conviction. In 2018, folks, in 2018, Texas convicted her of this because after she submitted a provisional ballot in 2016 while on supervised release for a previous tax fraud conviction. Now, Texas law prohibits people from felony convictions from voting until they completed their sentence. Now, Mason says she wasn't aware that she was ineligible to vote. Even her probation officer testified that was the case. It did not matter. They still convicted her, which caused her to be in violation of her federal parole. She had to go back into prison. She's now out, but she's been caught up in this system. And so she's appealing that conviction to the Texas Appeals Court, and we'll certainly keep you updated on what happens in that particular case there. All right, folks, Michael Collier is going to come up next. I'm going to release my panel right now, but I do want to go ahead and just do this here. So let me just do it around here. Sam, how long you been in Alpha?
44 years.
Greg?
35. Spring 1985.
Mustafa?
Since fall 1991.
Fall 91.
Yep.
All right, so it looks like Mustafa is the youngest one. I'm spring 1989, 31 years. And so glad to have all the brothers here. It has been a good day. I've been looking at some of the stuff out there. And also, just so folk know, those of us who you know what cracks me up? I'm just going to say this here. I get a kick out of folk, Sam, who think that just because one gets older, that somehow we can't groove, that somehow, we stop being able to do what we do, and I'm always having to remind these folks, Anthony, you can go ahead and take the video here. This is what, here, you can take this here. This is what I dropped. This is what I dropped a couple of years ago. This video here went viral where I was sitting here in my kitchen doing a little something. And, I just had to let folk know that, because, and even some of these young alphas out here, they think that, we shouldn't be out here doing what we do. All right, video's over. Y'all come back to me. Come on, man. Pay attention, Anthony. Get off the phone. Yeah, thank you. Focus, damn it. All right, then. I'm like sitting here. Video ends. All right, so we're here in Georgia. So this is today. This is about 30 minutes before showtime. And so, y'all, that's how when you 52 and you an alpha, how you still are able to do the 8-step. So I just wanted to let the folk know out there, like don't No, first of all, I ain't heard nothing, because let's be real clear. My legs work, my pelvis work, my hips work, and so I can still do what I do. So that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So don't sometimes you gotta let them know, Greg.
Hey, Roland, I gotta say this, man. Look, I'm first in my immediate family to go to college. I was in the marching band at Tennessee State. My best friend in the marching band wanted to be a Sigma. It's the summer before school starts. So we go to the library to look at I don't even know what I'm looking at. All these cats looking at the Sigma book. So I said, well, are they all the same? And they said, no. I said, well, then I saw this. Right here, you see? This book right here. And I saw the Sphinx. And I said, well, let me see that one. I started looking through. W.E.B. Du Bois, Paul Robeson, Duke Ellington, Charles Hamilton Houston. So then I asked a simple question. I said, wait, so are these guys in those other books? They said, no, you can only be in one. My question was, well, why in the hell would you want to be everybody, Martin Luther King, they all in this book. Why? And that's when I said, oh, I got to be an alpha. I mean, it's common sense, brother. Everybody in this book. Who y'all got in that book? Anyway.
Well, you know, some folk, you know, they got to do what they do, you know. And I was explaining my.
Roland, you know that saying, first of all? Well, when I was a student at the University
Service of all, we shall transcend all.
Yes, sir.
When I was a student at the University of North Carolina, there were no alphas. And the idea of being, first of all, being on a charter line at a PWI, that's why I became an alpha.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
All right then. All right, yes, Mustafa, your alpha memory.
I mean, I always knew I was going to be an alpha. Actually, a good friend of my mother was the dean of the law school. He was an alpha. And, you know, from an early age, I used to watch how he, you know, just how he handled himself and how he did his business. And then just like, you know, Brother Carr said, you know, after doing research and finding about all the incredible men who were alpha, I knew that I wanted to be a part of that. And then I also had learned that alphas were focused on, you know, on community service, on social justice issues. So for me, I was locked in once I heard that, because I knew I wanted to be a part of something that was going to give back to my community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now I know we supposed to be all about brotherhood, stuff like that, but I had to go ahead and play this on Alpha Founders Day. This is going to be the last thing I play before I let y'all go. My comedian Michael Collier's up next, so y'all don't want to miss that. But this was from 3 years ago. I was in Los Angeles on the golf course. And in fact, I actually explained in the video exactly what was going down. And Buddy Lewis, a Howard University graduate, Buddy he did not have high enough grades, nor he had high enough moral principles to become an alpha, so therefore he pledged Omega. And so Buddy is always talking trash, and you know, since we got a comedian coming up next, I might as well go ahead and end this with a comedian. We were on a golf course, and Buddy he feels himself, and then he decided to actually felt that he could step better than me. And so Daddy had to teach Buddy a lesson.
So Chris Spencer said, oh, he ain't gonna put on Atomic Dog because Buddy's an Omega. I said, you think I'm worried? Now, Buddy was hopping. The problem is, Buddy can't step anymore. Shit. Buddy actually hops. He gonna blow both knees, an ankle, all this sort of shit. So let me, since he old and he an Omega, let me show Alpha so to ask how to do it.
Get it, buddy. Give him that kick, buddy.
Y'all see that? Y'all see that? You can't spin the guy. He's hard. He stopped halfway. Because he can't. He gonna go something.
Nigga, y'all kicking mud all on my face. Don't let the alpha turn you out, buddy.
I told him Alpha's his daddy. Fuck that.
All I'm saying, never challenge your daddy.
But who the baby father?
Never challenge your daddy.
Roland, I can't do that, brother. You represent for all of us who might throw their back out, brother. I ride with you on that, brother. You got that.
Hey, let me just be real clear, because see, y'all think I'm joking, okay? That was not. See, y'all. See, then hold up. See, we didn't. See, I'm just letting y'all know. And see, when you got that wooden floor, when you got to hit him with that A step.
Watch out, boy.
I told y'all, don't play with a grown ass man. Sam, Mustafa, Greg, I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
Appreciate it.
06. Happy anniversary.
All right, y'all. Up next, Rollerball Unfiltered, comedian Michael Collier's in the house. We'll be back in a moment.
When the going got tough in business, David Perdue outsourced American jobs overseas.
In a deposition, Perdue testified he spent most of his career outsourcing.
You made a career out of outsourcing? How do you defend that?
Well, defend it. I'm proud of it. When the going got tough in the Senate, Perdue hid in the airport bathroom and even stole someone's cell phone who asked him a tough question.
I stole my property.
When the going got tough with COVID, Perdue hid critical information while selling his own stocks.
Records show that Senator David Perdue bought and sold stock shortly after a private Senate briefing on the virus.
It's not just that you're a crook, Senator. You're attacking the health of the people that you represent.
Now Perdue won't even face his constituents, backing out of debate after debate.
Enough incompetence, deceit, corruption, division. Change has come to Georgia. Change is coming to America.
Georgia needs a real senator, not a chicken Perdue. Midas Touch is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I'm John Ossoff, and too many are struggling to afford prescriptions. One change in the law would make a huge difference. See, Medicare is America's biggest buyer of prescriptions, but the drug companies bought off Congress, and they made it illegal for Medicare to negotiate lower prices. It's straight up corruption. Fighting corruption is my job. I approve this message because I'm not taking donations from corporate PACs, and I won't let the drug companies rip us off anymore.
We told them the smear ads were coming, and that's exactly what happened. You would think that Kelly Loeffler might have something good to say about herself if she really wants to represent Georgia. Instead, she's trying to scare people by taking things I've said out of context from over 25 years of being a pastor. But I think Georgians will see her ads for what they are. Don't you? I'm Raphael Warnock, and we approve this message.
We know what this is. It's Kelly Loeffler trying to play the race card to divide us. It's meant to scare you. It doesn't change anything or help any of us. This is the old politics. Georgia's too busy to hate. Our state should be a leader in business, education, science, sports. Don't let Kelly Loeffler take us back. Vote for the better Georgia.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
All right, folks, December 16th, BET is going to have a new holiday Christmas movie coming out. It's called Holiday Heartbreak, starring comedian Michael Collier. Michael hit me up. He was like, man, he said, I got to come on the show. I got a Christmas movie. Michael Collier, what's up?
Man, I'm loving you as usual. I'm loving your show, loving what you bring, man. Y'all was talking about stepping, though. I thought y'all meant like that Chicago South Side stepping, but you meant fraternity stepping. You and Buddy Lewis, who is actually, he's crazy for real. He's like certified. Buddy Lewis, one of them guys you used to be able to take to an institution and you hand them to the people and they just give you $75. You got to ask no questions or nothing, you know? So y'all was doing a whole different kind of step. How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm all good. We're here in Atlanta. We're actually here in Atlanta, of course. We're covering the Georgia Senate runoff, so we're on the road, but it's always good to talk with you. And so you got this movie, the holiday movie coming up, and first of all, when in the hell do we reach the point where there are 7,489 Christmas movies?
Well, because right now everybody's stuck in the house with COVID. And everybody's scared. Everybody nervous. They done lost their jobs. Ain't nobody working. And people need to be able to laugh and feel comfort and feel home. So this is like a Christmas marathon. But our show is going to be the classic. Holiday Heartbreak, come on, player. I got A.J. Johnson, who played Tyrese's mom and Baby Boy. I got Country Wayne, who's, man, this dude is so funny. He can say anything. He can say peanut butter, and it's funny. He can say curtain rod, and it's funny. My daughter, played by Marion Bashir, who's fine as Frog's Hair. You ever see Frog Hair? You can't see it. It's too damn fine. She plays the daughter who's trying to get hijacked by crazy ass Country Wayne. And I mean, it's just off the chain. It's got a great, great cast. Even fine Lisa Ray. She played the voodoo woman who put the spell on me. Oh, it's good. It's good.
Now somebody put on here I'm looking at our Facebook and our YouTube chat, and they said, so is Michael playing Santa Claus? They talking about your beard.
Yes, I am. I am.
Santa Claus in the movie?
I'm doing Santa. It's the Black Santa. We've been waiting for him forever, because White Santa can't come nowhere in my hood. I live in Inglewood. And if he come in there, especially wearing that red, oh, it's going down. No, I play the father, and I have to go through this journey, man. I got to save people. I think I'm saving people, but I really saved myself. This show really is about love, the power of love, and how you treat people. If you don't treat them right, about karma, what's going to come back and bite you. But it is hilarious. It's a great story. And I'm halfway cute in it, too. Thank you very much.
You talk about all the folks in there. The thesis is quite simple as well. Let's just say, so your character, were you to play a player back in the day, and is it coming back to haunt you?
Exactly. I don't play a player. It comes back to haunt me. I did bad things when I was, wow, they weren't bad. Come on, but young men who are successful, oh, look at this. How you expect them to act? Look how good I looked on screen. Can they hear it?
Oh,
they
you ain't got no sense whatsoever.
Oh, no, it's so good. And it comes
back Michael, in television, that's called B-roll. So we roll a video while you talk about it. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Now I got this person who's calling, even though I'm on the show right now. So they calling in and blocking me, blocking my light, blocking my juice. I'm just thrilled to be the star. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've been in many movies. This is my first time being #1 on the call sheet, and I think I held up to it.
So wait a minute, hold on. So this is your first leading role?
This is my first leading role. I mean, I always steal the show when I'm in any movie. But this is the first time they let me actually be the lead. They ain't let me. They gave that to me because Tressa Smallwood, the producer, has vision, man. And working with Megamind, the company, I've never had this type of energy and love on the set. Everybody was so positive. They helped me make it magical. It's really, really magical, man. It's so good, I can't wait to see it myself. And I refuse to watch it until it comes out December 16th. I want to see it when everybody else sees it. In fact, I'm buying myself a red carpet remnant, okay? And I'm going to sit out front of my house, and I'm going to walk up to my own door. I'm having my own, Kelly going to stand out. My woman going to stand up there with one camera. She going to be paparazzi. And I'm going to walk up that red remnant, and I got a champagne glass full of eggnog, and I'm going to watch myself. It's going to be so good.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Tressa, because Tressa was the one who put me in the movie Sinners Wanted.
She said, make sure I send her love to you today, too. She said, make sure you tell Roland I said hello. And if you worked with her, you know how they do it at Megamind. They're positive Black people who love each other, support each other, lift each other up. It was way easier than I thought it would be, because like I said, being my first role where I really had more lines than I've ever had before. And I'm trying to make sure that people have been watching me as a comedian forever. They see me doing a lot of acting parts. But now I'm the star of it. I didn't want to fail at it. But they help you so much. They inspire you and encourage you and lift you up. And you can do it when you're working with Megamind. So I love Tressa Smallwood off the chain.
All right, then. Michael Collier. So it airs what day and what time on BET?
It's on BET on December 16th, and it's at 6 p.m., I think, on both coasts. I know 6 p.m. in LA. I think it's also 6 p.m. on the East Coast. So they rolling at a decent time. You can see it. But, you know, it's on BET. So, you know, they're going to run that about 95,000 times. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's really good. If you miss it, don't worry about it. You're going to get to see it again tomorrow. Wait, hold up 3 hours. You're going to get a chance to see it again. You know?
It will come around and around and around and around.
And she stayed in COVID compliance too, brother. She didn't play. You had to come in with a recent test saying that you had negative COVID. You know, when you take the test. Matter of fact, I even carry my own. Put your forehead up there for a second. Let me get the. Okay, yeah, you 97.8. Okay, if somebody check me, I check them. I don't play with this. I wash my hand 47 times. I got 97 masks. Me and my wife wear the mask to bed. Sometimes we don't know who we sleeping with. Let me tell you something. I take this so serious, COVID. If you're on the phone talking to me and you cough, I hang up on your ass. I don't play with COVID. We don't play. And they didn't play on that set. You had to show up ready. They test us every day. Every 3 days, they test your blood. You couldn't be there unless you was right. So she does it right, brother. Could I just mention also my morning show, like while I'm here with your big audience? I have a morning show called the Michael Collier Morning Show at 7 a.m., 5 days a week, because I think people are so stressed out. They're more damaged by the stress and the fear of COVID than actually COVID itself. So we have a place where you can come and laugh and pray every day. Just go to YouTube and put in the Michael Collier Morning Show. It is so good. And now every day we talk about the movie on there.
All right.
I love you, bro.
Of course you do. Michael, somebody on YouTube said, he funny. What's his Cash App? They want to tip you.
Oh, God bless you for even saying that. My Cash App is so easy. I like to make it easy for other people to give me their money, Roland. Okay, my Cash App is $ Michael Collier's Money. $ Michael Collier's Money. And with this COVID going on, everybody out of work, I want you to know I'm available for everything. I'm doing weddings, divorces, Passover, hangover. I do a party in a phone booth if you promise to call. So thank you, King. I appreciate you so much. It's called Holiday Heartbreak. It is so good, man. I can't wait to see it.
All right, Michael Collier. Always a pleasure, my brother. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Blessings. Thank you, Roland. God bless you, man. Happy holiday.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Folks, that's it for us. Don't forget, if you want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered, look, y'all, ain't no show like this here where you can have your political breakdown, your economic breakdown. You can have great panelists like Mustafa Santiago Ali, Sam Fullwood, Dr. Greg Carr, the mayor of Baton Rouge. I'm talking about, the top black economists. Then, of course, you top that thing off with my man Michael Collier. Then, of course, y'all ain't going to have no other host doing no A-step. Come on now. Anderson Cooper ain't going to do this. Jake Tapper can't do this. Chris, y'all know that boy Chris can't do this. They ain't going to, Lawrence O'Donnell not going to do that. And none of them fools at Fox got any rhythm. So we want y'all to support what we do. We are here in Atlanta, Georgia. We're going to be traveling all across the state covering this race. It's going to be absolutely fabulous, y'all. Tomorrow, listen to me, tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be live streaming the Raphael Warnock, John Ossoff rally. Then on Sunday is the debate with Warnock and Kelly Loeffler. David Perdue will not debate Ossoff. Ossoff will be by himself. We have gotten permission from the Atlanta Press Club to stream that. We're going to actually be, hold on, let me tell y'all where I'm going to be. We're going to be they sent to me, hold on, this is important, because if y'all are in Georgia, we want y'all to come out. There's going to be a drive-in debate watch party. Y'all hear me? Drive-in. It's called Dinner and Debate Drive-In. Black Voters Matter. It's going to be in Thomasville and Warner Robins. I'm going to be there with them. I will be there. We're going to have a pre-show. We're going to show the debate. And then we're going to have a great time. That's going to be on Sunday beginning at 4 p.m. Okay? So, support what we do, y'all. Cash out. $ RM Unfiltered. PayPal.me/R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo.com is /RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com. Money order, send it to New Vision Media, NU, Vision Media, Inc., 1625 K Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. First of all, 1625 K Street Northwest, Suite 400, Washington, D.C., 2006. My man Keenan sent me this note here. We have 15,505 members of our fan club. Is that number right? Yes. 15,505. Y'all, we want to end the year with 20,000. So we are, again, we're less than 5,000 away. Join our fan club. We ask $50 each for the course of a year. $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. If you can't give 50, that's fine. We've had people give 40, 30, 20, 10, 12, $4, $1, doesn't matter. We've had people give us a lot more than that. So whatever your heart desires, because this is about creating a platform. We're ready to cover our stories and speak to our issues. We end every Friday show with our list of fan club members. If you don't see your name on the list, simply send me an email and we'll get that rectified. All right, folks, I will see y'all tomorrow. I'm here from Atlanta. I'll see y'all on Sunday. And then, of course, Monday is the last day to register. If you're in Georgia, register to vote so we can put Warnock and Ossoff in the United States Senate. I got to go. I'll see y'all later. To all my alphas, to all my frat brothers, have a great Founders Day. To our General President, Everett Ward, to all the great alphas out there. My brother, Reginald Martin Jr., who was number 3